But did God also establish the civil power? Yes, because in Romans 13 it says clearly that He is God's minister. Now you remember when the mob came to arrest Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, there was one disciple, Peter, who wanted to defend the kingdom of Christ. And how did he want to defend it? Supposedly he was the first pope. Although we know that biblically and historically that's not true. But anyway, he took out his sword. And he swung at the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. And he wasn't aiming for his ear. He was aiming for his head. But he missed. And what did Jesus say to Peter? He said, "Well done, Peter. Defend my kingdom with the sword. Make everybody obey me." Is that what he said? No. Notice the very interesting words that Jesus used in Matthew 20, that Peter spoke and that Jesus used to rebuke Peter. Matthew 26, verse 52. But Jesus said to him, "Put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword." Are those words very similar to Revelation chapter 13 and verse 10, where it says that he who kills with the sword must be killed with what? With a sword. This is speaking about the sword, the literal sword that is used to defend Christ's kingdom. The sword of the state, of the civil power to defend Christ's kingdom, and Christ would have absolutely nothing of it. A little bit later, Jesus was in Pilate's court, John 18 and verse 36. Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you a king?" And notice what Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world." How many kingdoms did Jesus recognize? He recognized two kingdoms. He said, "My kingdom is not of this world." If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would what? Fight. They would use the physical sword. They would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Jews, but now my kingdom is not from here. So the question is, what is the deadly wound? We can only understand the deadly wound if we understand what the sword is. The sword that is spoken of in this prophecy is the ability of using the civil power to those who disobey civil law. But what happened with the beast? The beast is a religious power, right? And the beast used the sword to punish everyone who was not in agreement with the beast's theology or belief system or teachings. Are you understanding what I'm saying? In other words, as we've studied before, it's the church taking the sword of the state to punish dissenters who are not in harmony with her. And the sword that the church used, the sword of the state that the church used to kill, would be the sword that would arise to give her the deadly wound. In other words, the deadly wound is nothing less or more than taking away from the hand of the church the sword of the state. In other words, the state was going to turn against the church that had used the power of the state to persecute people who did not agree with the church.